everyone, it's Karen here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have got a rain shaker bead card that I wanted to share with you. The first time I ever saw this done was a few years ago, and it was by Laura Davallo, and I'll put a link to her site down below. I think she was the first person to come up with this idea, and it's just such a great idea. So for this one, I am using this new die from Creative Expressions. It's called the Cat's Paws. And I've just die cut the cat out and Copic marker colored him in. But you could use watercolor, you could pencil crayon. So I've also cut the front out, and as you can see, I'm doing some very fancy Copic markering there. I just dotted on some darker RV Copic markers and then colored over with that RVO2. And now this is from Cosmic Shimmer. It's some Ultra Sparkle paste in Frosty. And it is fantastic. I love this stuff. It just gives that extra little bit of shine and sparkle. It's got a glue in it, so once it dries, it stays on. And I've just put it around the trees to make it look a bit wet and rainy-like. Now I've got a 5x5 inch card base, and I had this Yupo paper that I'd done some alcohol ink blending on, but you could do a watercolor background, it could be ink blending, you could do alcohol inks, whatever suits you, I think. I don't think it really matters. You kind of want just a wet looking background, I think. And to do the rain shaker part now, this is a monofilament cord. It's a 0.25 millimeter diameter. You don't want it to be too thick so it shows up a lot. And then I just had some seed beads I'd found at the craft store. So to start, you need to put a layer of double-sided foam along the top and the bottom of your card. I ended up cutting my foam in half to make it fit under that white border at the top. Now under those leaves, you don't really see the beads terribly much, so I didn't start right all the way over. I came in a little bit from the left and the right edges. And then I am marking every 3/16 of an inch. Now, you could make those wider if you want. I like the 3/16. I felt like it filled it in with, enough beads coming down. And I used my T-ruler there to mark the end at the bottom of it so it would all line up. Now I've got my first strand already started here, and I'm just showing you I've got that mark where I just used my T-ruler, and I'm just pulling that cord fairly taut and then pushing it down onto the double-sided foam. Now this is Laura's tip. She took a piece of double-sided adhesive tape and started it at the top and then pulled it down taut over top of the cord and pressed that into the double-sided foam. And I really do think that helps, because just in the foam itself, it didn't really hold, and it would have made it a lot tougher to do, I think. So here I'm lifting back the double-sided adhesive, removing the backing on the foam, and I'm lining up that cord against the mark, pressing it down, and then you're going to press down that double-sided adhesive. And the trick is not to let the double-sided adhesive stick to the foam where you don't want it to stick, which is further down. So that's the tricky part, quite honestly, is managing the foam and the tape. I didn't use a needle to thread the beads. They seem to go on fairly well, just picking them up. And you only need about 1 inch to 1.5 inches on each strand, because you want them to come down. You don't want them filled all the way, so there has to be some room for movement. So here I am moving the backing off and the adhesive tape out of the way, pulling it quite taut and pressing that down. And the trick is to sort out the foam from the adhesive tape. And once you get the hang of it, it goes okay. It took me a minute to kind of figure it out, I have to admit, but it is doable, you guys. So now once you've got all your strands done, you can remove the backing on the adhesive tape, and you're going to put another layer of double-sided foam tape on top of that. So you're really sandwiching those strands between the foam and the double-sided tape. And then just trimming it. Now on this on the top part, I was lining up the strands fairly well. There's a few at the top there that I didn't quite get, but the rest of them I was lining them up. But at the bottom, you're not quite sure how long to make it because you're threading beads on. So all you do is cut these off. Once you've got your foam tape on, just trim them flush to the edge, and nobody will ever know that they were there. It all works out. And then, of course, you have to play with it because it is really fun. And I don't know if it's because I had on the Yupo paper, but it really moved really well. And then the next step is to put 2 layers of double-sided foam along the left and the right edge, just so everything will line up with the top and the bottom. And then all you have to do is put the front back on. Now, in making this video, I did make a mistake again. I'm sorry. I should have glued the cat on before I attached that front and my sentiment as well, but I didn't. It worked out okay in the end, but really it would have been easier to have put this on first because as I was doing this, I was worrying that I was getting glue in behind where the beads were going to go. Didn't know how much pressure I could push down on because the beads were underneath. So I would recommend gluing the cap back on before you glue the front on. And the same with the sentiment. Now, this sentiment I actually made on my computer. I don't have a sentiment that was going to fit this, so I just made that one on the computer, and it seemed to work out okay. So there you have it. Now, the next thing, you just have to play with that. It's so fun to watch those beads go up and down. So that's all there is to it, guys. I hope you'll give it a try because it's fun. Thank you so much for joining me. See you next time.